Hello lovelies, it has been a long time, but I got inspired to make a video today because Terrifier 2 came out. I went and saw it, actually alone. That was an experience. I really liked it, so I'm going to talk about it, but I do have some issues with it as well. I'll try to not spoil things in the beginning, but I'll probably give some spoilers later because there's some stuff that I want to talk about that's definitely gonna spoil it. I loved that they didn't hold back on the gore. Definitely don't go see it if you are sensitive to gore because you are gonna have a hard time because the very first scene is extremely gory. There was a lot of scenes of, or I guess I should say a lot of shots of just the way that they filmed the women in the film. I mean, yes, the main protagonist of the film is a woman, but I had some issues with it because there's a couple shots where they're showing her very, there's one shot of her in the shower because she's a teenage girl in high school. It doesn't matter how old the actor is, it's still gross. Cause you're showing the audience this almost nude, it literally, you could see from the back, but you could see, it was a side shot, a side boob shot. That's gross, she's a high schooler. Why are we sexualizing her? I still don't like that. I don't appreciate it. But there were some shots that I did find an appreciation in. I think there's a lot of slasher film tropes in the movie, which at first I'm like, ugh, we've all seen this, it's boring and also sexist. But then I was like, but I feel like that's the point. They're playing on these tropes and it makes the movie funny. And that's the thing, is this is a horror movie, and if you go to see it, it is creepy. The Terrifier's creepy. But the whole movie I was laughing my ass off because it's so funny. The gore and just how the faces he makes are so funny. And a lot of the gore, I will say, didn't look realistic, and that was kind of a disappointment for me. And what I mean by that is, I know the first film, objectively not a great film, just from a filmmaker standpoint, not great. It's, very dark, not great camera quality, acting is not good at all except for the Terrifier. And the script is cringy. There's a lot of things about the first movie that is ugh. But I think what sold the movie to me to where now Terrifier is one of my favorite movies of all time is the gore looked so incredibly realistic that it creeped me out. And then the clown, 10 out of 10. That actor is amazing. But I was thinking about it, I'm why does this gore look more realistic than the second film that had a higher budget? And I think the reasoning for that is with the lower camera quality in the first one and the lower quality lighting, I guess not lower, I mean, yes, it is lower quality, but the lighting was so dark in the first movie. There was a lot of just super dark lighting, and because of that, the blood looked darker and more realistic, or at least what I interpret as more realistic. I mean, thank God I've never seen actual like gory scenes like that. But I think we all know, like when we see a movie and you can tell that it's fake blood, we all know that. We all can understand what it's supposed to look like. And I think the newer film, the blood looked too light, so I knew it was fake. And I know there was like a shot of the main character and she had a cut on her arm, and I remember being like, that does not look real. And I was trying to like be like, it's fine, it's fine. It actually doesn't look that bad, but I'm like, but it does. So that I think was like a bit of a disappointment, because that was the main thing that I loved about the first film, was that like dark blood and the gory scenes that just look so realistic. I do love the newer film in aspects of like, I love that the storyline is so much better than the first movie. We actually have a badass female protagonist we love. Was she over-sexualized? Absolutely, but do we expect anything other than that from a man director? No, of course not. Men love to objectify women on screen, and you can't even argue. Anyways, but I didn't appreciate that, but I did like that he had a female protagonist, and we actually got some like characterization from her, and I think they really, like, the film really explores like her relationship with her mom and her brother. I do wish that we would have gotten more about her father, and okay, I'm gonna spoil something, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, like, you can just goodbye. But the father, we kind of get that, like, the hint about him being like mentally ill from a brain tumor. I guess not mentally, he was suffering effects from his brain tumor, and he ended up like committing suicide, probably not intentionally, you know, who knows, but like when I first, at the very beginning, when they were first talking about the father, and then also when the brother was showing Sienna like pictures from the father's journals, I thought that their father was the Terrifier, and I was like, holy shit, like what? I kind of would have preferred that, other than the route that they ended up going with. I don't know, that would have just been like, whoa. And I think like my thinking on that was somewhat similar to like the spin-offs of Halloween, because that franchise in later films ends up like connecting Laurie Strode with Michael Myers as her being his sister. And the newer films have completely erased that, and I kind of wish that they didn't, because I really loved that about the like Halloween 4 and 5 are by far my favorites in the franchise, and I know that's like surprising, but I actually really love them. For one, we have the female protagonist and a child, Jamie. We love her. But I just love like the idea of connecting, like not, I guess like making the villain a person, because there's so much, like, of course there's fantasy and unrealistic tropes and storylines in horror, like, yes, of course, but I like it when they go a route of making it like we're like, oh, this is a villain, but it's also a person. It makes it more eerie to me, because it's like, oh, this is somewhat realistic. And so like I really like that. I'm a big fan of realism in film, especially like with dialogue. you know, I like that. With Terrifier, I don't like how it ended. And that's Terrifier 2. The shot of when she's like in this water tank. I don't like that they use like special effects to make the sword like light up and then her like magically becoming all healed and she comes to life again. Like it was just so, and I do understand, like even the first movie there was a supernatural aspect of it, similar to Michael Myers, where the Terrifier should have died, but he didn't. And I liked that. I liked that little nugget of supernatural, but I think they took the idea of its supernatural to a very far extreme in the second film, to where I was like a little out of it. And I understand people that like that kind of stuff might be like, I loved it. I don't. I'm not a fan of that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the little girl. I don't understand what she had to do with anything. Like, can someone tell me in the comments, please? Because I didn't understand it. She was like his like sidekick. I was completely confused. And I think that was part of the like supernatural stuff that I'm like, it was just like going so far. I'm like, why does he have this little child that doesn't actually exist with him and her eyes light up? Like, it was kind of stupid. But I don't know, that was just like something that I noticed like when that was going on. I'm just like, the scene in the laundromat, I found it so hilarious. Like I really liked that, like him when he was like not talking because he doesn't talk, but when him and the little girl are like doing their little expressions at each other, I was like, and then the dude is like just watching him like, is this dude all right? Like it was so funny. But then when she kept coming around, I'm just like, what does this child have to do with anything? I was very confused. But nonetheless, I did very much enjoy it. I do definitely recommend it if you are a very gory horror fan. I love gore because I appreciate the use of practical effects, and I'm like just so blown away and impressed every time I see like a movie like this where it's just like, how did they do that? It looks so real. I'm just like, I was just watching the movie like amazed as usual. Like I just loved it. But for me, that's why I can watch a lot of like really gory horror movies, because I know it's fake and I have a really big appreciation for how these fake effects are used, and just like how, especially practical effects. Like we all have seen digital effects and those are also very cool. Like it takes a ton of work for those too. And that's amazing too. But I think there's always a noticeable difference between like computer generated effects and practical effects, and I'm just always amazed when I see movies like this and they're just so gory and it looks realistic, and I'm like, that's disgusting, how did they do that? So yes, I very much enjoyed it and I recommend it, especially if you watched the first movie. Go see this. I loved, there's a lot of Easter eggs throughout the movie, connecting it to the first film. So it's just fun, nostalgic. And we also get a new badass bitch character, Sienna. She's a final girl. I really loved the scene in the store when the Terrifier's following Sienna through the store super creepily. Like, oh, that got under my skin. And I freaking love his mannerisms and his facial expressions. Like, I was just laughing my ass off the whole movie. It was just so funny to me, and I think that's why it was such an enjoyable experience. Yes, it was not realistic like I wish that it could have been, but that added to the fun of it. And I think for me, when things become unrealistic, I find comedy in that. So honestly, to me, that movie was more like a dark comedy than like a horror movie, I guess. But I loved it. And I know a big criticism of the film is it being 2.5 hours long, I think, or like around there. It is long, but there was only one scene, maybe 2 scenes at most, where I was like, okay, it's kind of slow, like let's go. But other than that, like it did not feel like 2.5 hours long at all. It was just, I think because there's just so much action and gore and you're just like so into like what's going on screen. For me, I think there was this scene, I'm trying to think, well, the whole scene of Sienna getting ready, and she, like, they have to have the shower shot of her showing off her boobs, and then like her getting dressed into her very, very like revealing costume, which, like, again, I like females expressing their sexuality. I think I just had a problem with it because the director is a man and the screenwriter is a man. So instead of it being like a female choice to express her sexuality, it was a male gaze experience of conveying the male fantasy. So that kind of annoyed me. But I did love most of the movie, and I really do like that director. Like I think it's awesome that he writes his own screenplays and makes them, and I think like the character of the Terrifier is brilliant. Like, love that. But you know, I do have my issues, and unfortunately, like, that's not a just him thing. It's like any horror, I'm not gonna say it all, but like most horror movies either over-sexualize female characters, or they make the prudy characters the main characters that survive because they don't have sex with men and they don't express their sexuality. They don't have time for it. Those girls are disgusting. Like, I hate that. I don't like it. But anyways, the one thing I kind of found issue with is, again, they had a like person of color in the film, and of course he is like one of the first people to die, and like, come on. And I'm guessing, again, it may have been used as a device, like that's what slashers commonly do, so let's keep poking fun at them. And I get that, but also, like, do we have, like, why? Why are they always getting killed off? And I actually loved his character. It's freaking hilarious. And so I was mad. Like, I was mad that he got killed off. And, like, yes, it was entertaining to watch. And just, like, a hilariously gory scene to watch for me. But, like, at the back of my mind, my little, like, very political brain was like, red flag, red flag. So yeah, I don't know how, like, I know that's annoying to talk about sometimes, whatever, but like, it bothered me. But I really liked the scene when Sienna was in this children's show, and I loved that. It was eerie and entertaining to me. The only thing that kind of pulled me out of it was when the Terrifier pulls out a like automatic gun and is just like shooting up the place. That kind of bothered me because, yes, he does use guns in the first movie. Like, he uses the gun on the main character in the first movie, and then at the end. But the gun seemed to be the last resort. So I thought it was weird that he just like whips out a gun and is just shooting everyone. Like, I think it would have been more character-like for him if he was like using actual like hand weapons. And I also like, I don't know, it was just so like, I was so confused by that because I'm like, I feel like his character is to murder people and have fun doing it slowly, and he finds enjoyment in seeing people terrified and incredibly in pain. So I was just like, this is so out of character for him. It was just kind of like I don't know, I was like, why is he doing this? Yeah, I think there was, I'm trying to remember, I watched another YouTuber that I love. I think her channel is Possessed by Horror. Is it? Anyways, love her, but she brought up like some moments where he was acting out of character, and I was like, yeah, like I totally see that. Because it was just kind of, I don't know, some of the film I'm like, where is this going? And it was a fun film. Like overall, I would say for me it was probably, I guess like currently, because I still have the high of the movie on my mind, I would say like a 7 out of 10. If you gave me a few months, it might go down, just because, or even just a few days, honestly, because I think I just had so much fun watching it and it was so anticipated. Like, I've been waiting since 2016 for this movie to come out. I was so excited to see it was out, and I just like went to the movie theater at night alone because I'm like, I need to see this movie now. And it was so enjoyable seeing the Terrifier again because I'm just like, yes. And he's so freaking hilarious. Yes, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you at some point in the future. Maybe soon. Okay.